So this woman, Becca Davis, got a job. And the hate that she is getting simply because she got a job is baffling to me. So here's the post. Proud of Becca Davis, a recent Reformed Theological Seminary grad, now working as an editor at Crossway. Becca studied and was a teaching assistant at RTS Jackson. Very simple, straightforward. She got a job. She went to seminary. Now she got a job as an editor. Okay, so now why is Nate being so hateful? So Nate doesn't believe that Becca should have that job as an editor. He says a Christian man and father should have that job. And evangelicalism is surely worse off because that's not the case. Our institutions are sick, and I'm not going to hesitate to say such things anymore. Yeah, so a man and a father needs that job. So I start reading some of the comments on the post. Lord Business is wondering, why are women in seminary? And then Paul says they are in some seminaries due to the influence of feminism and the false teaching of complementarianism, which is essentially a softer form of egalitarianism. JG says women teaching at a reformed seminary, shameful. Christian says, wow, the comment section in here is really sad. She's not pastoring a church. She's editing books and glorifying Christ through it. A lot of fragile egos here. David says, I guess I can count Reformed Theological Seminary and RTS Jackson out for a solid seminary option. Jack says, imagine bragging about taking such an L. John Moody says, this is shameful, not something to be celebrated. Professional LARP says, when did conservatives start admitting women to seminary? Redbeard says, boomers continuing to destroy the pillars of society. Brad Stafford says, no men qualified. Joe says, these comments are egregious and pathetic. This young lady is an editor, not a pastor. These comments are a sad indictment. Christian Glow says, I support Becca. Liberdees says, hell is going to be so confusing to you. Joel says, good for her and do great work. Dave says, training up the next generation of girl bosses and latchkey kids. Burnt Mashwig says, we might just have to wait until these boomers and lip-wristed feminists die off before we get a proper church back again. The pull to please the world is too strong with them. Bab says, as a woman, this saddens me. You boomer men think it's a good idea to cheer the woman on as they pursue leadership in our churches instead of raising the next leaders. You're belittling women's true calling. So is it leadership to just have a job? Is that leadership? This is so strange to me. That's what Spider Pig says. The comments in here are crazy. Since when is a theological education and or a position of editor forbidden in scripture? These people cannot stand feminism, and obviously the thought of a woman having a job anywhere near a church is a bad thing. She's an editor. She's not a pastor. So this is so strange to me to see how repulsed they are. But then Nate right here saying, I don't care if you think I'm mean. We're not doing feminism anymore. Like literally, we're not doing feminism anymore. Does that mean that you are, Nate, is stripping women's rights? This is the reason why I am so repelled by Christian conservatives. This is the reason why I'm so repelled by the church. I know that people think that I dig into the church and I'm unfair and everything, but everything about them is repulsive to me because they don't want women to have rights. This woman has a job and they are literally acting like she's sitting up here robbing somebody. She's robbing a man of the opportunity to have a job. But DEI, remember, they were going on and on about DEI because people didn't earn the positions and we're going for a meritocracy. But this woman earned her job. She went to school for this and she got a job, and now these people are upset. So Paul continues, I love this comment because it's controlled the church for so long. The who we are witnessing to is assumed to be people given to the spirit of the age, but it's a false premise. There is a growing sea of people who are disillusioned by the world feminism has created and are looking for answers. That's my audience. And I'm also speaking to our kids who I care about more than a million imaginary thems. Paul simply asked Nate, why choose to be so critical and negative? It's a dreadful witness. Be better. The fact that he says, I'm also speaking to our kids, tells me that he does not believe that girls should be trying to do more. Girls should not be working on their achievements. Girls should not have rights and successes, because we have to give, if it's their worldview, they have to give everything to the boy children. A few more comments. Abby says it's editing, it's nitpicking language. How is a woman not perfectly suited to this? Dale says correct, as in, this is such a terrible thing and this is feminism at work. He agrees with him. Jennifer simply says, LOL. Actually, Barr says, it's frightening men who think this way lead anyone. Yes, I am honestly baffled at how angry these people get. They really don't want women to be able to earn a living at all. David says, I'm confused. Why is it bad that a female seminary grad got a job as an editor? The Bible doesn't prohibit women serving as editors, and we should get our doctrine from scripture instead of cultural expectation of the weirdos who live on the internet. So Matt Kennedy saw all of the hate that Becca is getting and says, I would not normally wade into the present discussion going on about this post, but I think I should in this case. I know Becca and her family. They attended Good Shepherd for about 6 years before moving out of the area. They are a wonderful and godly family, and Becca is a selfless and devoted young woman. There is not a hint of feminism in any of them, and her father, a good friend of mine, instilled in all of them growing up an abiding love for the created differences between men and women and what those differences mean for men and for women. I don't see how a single Christian woman working as an editor for a Christian publisher or a TA in any way undermines the biblical roles of anything that has to do with feminism. The fact that this man has to say there is not a hint of feminism, and down here talking about these roles has nothing to do with feminism, they really cast aspersions against feminism. Like it's such a bad thing for women to expect equality, have opportunities, and can do whatever they wanted to do in life. This is the reason why I am so repelled by these people. Even as Matt Kennedy is trying to champion this woman and say, you go, you did this, he still has to cast aspersions against women. And I just do not understand these people. But this is one of the reasons why I cannot stand religion. They have men up here and they have women down here. And I absolutely reject the notion that women need to be underneath. We are equal. No, we're not doing the exact same things, but we're equal in our humanity, except where it comes to religion. There's a video I'm about to show you. This man right here is talking about how his church has changed, how there are more people of color in his congregation, and how he has people of color actually in leadership roles. And so now there is a person named William Wolf that did a whole write-up about this pastor in this video. And Nate reposted whatever William wrote right here. So William says, let's be perfectly clear. DEI or any kind of quotas for hiring based on race is sinful partiality, and it is always anti-white. Therefore, DEI is anti-white racism, plain and simple. So when J.D. Greer used DEI standards to make appointments in the SBC, he was practicing demonic, sinful hatred against white Christians. Here he is boasting that of all the appointments I've made, 2/3 of them are women or people of color. So this compounds his sin, as he is intentionally hating white men specifically. Now, Nate reposted this, and keep in mind, Nate is the one that said that that other job needed to go to a man, a married man. So he's perfectly fine with men getting jobs specifically because they're men. And he says, and when he announced that his church has a target diversity quota goal in their staff hiring, that's also blatant racism, because it's always against white people. He gets away with it in the eyes of the world in the compromised church, but that doesn't make him any less of a racist. And that's Neil Shenvi's pastor. So these people are really acting like white people are getting the brunt of the racism because people of color and women are getting some roles. But I'll let you see this video if you're interested in it. That's coming next. It just goes to show, though, their victim mentality is so strange. Here it is.
Things that I do, and this is more about Southern Baptist polity than you'll ever want to know, but one of my main roles is to appoint people on committees who will then appoint trustees who end up shaping the institutions and providing leadership and accountability. I just tell you, of all the appointments that I've made, 2/3 of them are either women or they are people of color. I really do that for two reasons. One, that really is the future. Already, by the way, this is something, it's hard. Through an unbelievable act of generosity, already right now today, 20% of Southern Baptist membership is people of color, which is something, honestly, knowing our history, I do not understand. It is an act of extraordinary generosity. But already, even with things the way they are, the membership is already 20% people of color. 63% of all the churches that Southern Baptist planted last year were led by people of color. So it is the present, it is the very quickly coming future. That's the first reason. Secondly, we need their wisdom. It's not like this act of grace of, oh, from up here, I just want to you graciously share the stage because it's, no, I need the wisdom in a changing culture. There are things that God has put in this part of the body that I would be a much poorer Christian and much poorer leader, and there are blind spots I will never see until God has filled his church with a variety of people and the kinds of people that make up the diversity of the church.